So I'm going to welcome you all today. Thank you so much for your interest in this subject. It's really important now, especially with COVID. And I want to welcome you all. And let's just take 1 minute of silence just to arrive, just making yourself steady, eyes open or closed. You choose, you decide. From now. Slowly coming back into the space. Maybe wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, have a little bit of movement. It's coming back to your natural breath. Okay. So just that check-in, and I'd like you just to notice where your own energy is today. Maybe you're in Tenerife, like Sarah is having a lovely time. And maybe Sarah's really busy in Tenerife as well. So just to notice where your own energy is today. It is a Saturday morning. Suddenly we're used to being maybe more isolated, and then we're on a call with about 30 odd people. So it's just noticing your own energy. How are you feeling after this week? Are you feeling tired, hungry? With your blood pressure? Just noticing what you need. And again, just noticing your breath right now. Just notice your breath. Maybe is it higher up? Is it lower? And actually, just when we work with the body, it brings up a lot of shame and stuff, and it's very complicated, not just for our clients, but also for us. So, a lot of anxiety. So I'd like you to be mindful of yourself. Very often we're focused on the other person in the room, whereas today I'm shining a light on two people in the room. And actually the brighter light is on you. So to really have some compassion for yourself and just take a moment to notice if anything comes up for you today, who you may need to take that to. So just take a moment to think about that person. If something is triggered or a memory, or as therapists, we have supervision, as health workers, yoga teachers, coaches, just who you may need to debrief. Okay, so just take a breath on who that person is. And also the pace of today is quite bouncy. I often try to condense about 25 years of knowledge into what have we got, 4 hours and a lunch. So there is a huge area here, which I'm very passionate about. But I will be bouncing over a lot of subjects, and I need to encourage you to, if there's something that you connect with that you think, oh, what's that? Follow that thread. You might need to keep a couple of threads. And later on today, I'll send you your certificate, but also a boatload of reading and some other threads that you may want to pick up and find useful. And by all means, ask me questions. I can talk about this for days, weeks, months. I literally obsess about this subject. So please keep the dialogue open. And I'm happy to direct people in areas of further study that they may want. So we're all here today for our professional roles, and we've all worked very hard to get them. But often when we intellectualize things, and remember, today we're talking about mind and body, and there's that split. Okay, so when we intellectualize things, we disconnect. So just for a moment, and I'd like you to pop this in the chat, I just want you to think about if you could be anywhere right now, your body, if your body could be anywhere right now, and there was a Learjet outside that I've organised with Eventbrite to take you anywhere, where would you want to be right now? Where does your body want to be? And I'm going to ask you to put that in the chat. Body work. So first of all, as Babette Rothschild speaks about very firmly, it's not for everyone. People who may be severely traumatized, who've been sexually abused, and it's just not for everyone. So I'm really putting that as a health warning out there. And very much when we're working with the body, we often need medical intervention. And what I mean by this is that we may need to encourage people to go to their GP because we may be working with chronic pain. There may be thyroid, so blood needs to be checked out, diabetes, immune system, fibromyalgia. So it's really noticing that very often we need, as therapists, and again, this is as yoga and health professionals, there may be something else going on that we do really need to get checked out as well. Okay. And I want to bring together these two groups, which for me is sort of like the party that I used to dream about that I never thought would ever happen. And this is the truth, where you have, we've got mental health professionals, and today we're going to have some body work that you will be able to integrate into your current practice. That's working online on Zoom. And if you're working face to face as well, by the way, is anyone working face to face at the minute? No, not yet. Show of hands. I am. Are some people Zena, or is nobody? Just if people, I'm doing both at the minute. And also, we've also got a community here of yoga teachers, coaches, people in the healing profession. And these worlds used to be separate. And now we have mental health professionals who are yoga teachers who are doing coaching. There's lots of overlap now. And in that space, what I find really interesting is actually therapists are terrified of bringing in the body on the whole. Some people are working with it, but we need a little bit more support and help to be able to work with the body. And yoga teachers and people who are working with the body already, there's a need for and a hunger for more, a little bit more science, a little bit more therapeutic knowledge there. So we've got a lovely group here today, so welcome. So as I've mentioned, we've got breaks. We've got every 50 minutes, there's a break. So we've got a movement break at 10 to 12. We'll then take lunch at 12:45. There's an afternoon break. And then we'll be doing a yoga practice later on and wrapping up and doing Q&A at about 2:45. So we'll be wrapped up at 3. So the aim of today is really to illuminate the process of working with body awareness. And this is in therapy, in yoga, in the therapeutic healing work that people are doing. And for me, our work today is to raise your awareness, and bring it into your consciousness, the phrase non-verbal phenomena, and also countertransference. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And there's something, and I would like you to share this, whether it's in chat or you want to speak about this, usually I just dive straight into the late 1800s and there's a timeline of science. But we are now in November 2020. We are nearly at the end of this year. COVID. So it's affected bodies. We're talking about body awareness. So actually, I've thrown a few images up here about this year, but what are you missing? What choice has been taken away from you? And again, I'd invite you to put this in the chat. So we've got COVID, bodies staying away from each other, hands washing, the Black Lives Matter movement, our therapy's gone online, hugs, touch, intimacy, how much we now appreciate these communications, working from home, having to use technology, masks. It would be useful to drop in the chat, what are you missing? What do you need? And Zena? So we are impacted, our clients are impacted, our students are impacted, and usually we are all existing on different islands. Yet this year we have all had choice taken away from us at many levels at different points, whether it's seeing family. Annoyed where I live is in tier 3, so I can't go to the yoga class I wanted to go to next week. For me, that's part of my self-care really, and doing that, and on just the choice has been taken away from us. And again, I just want to highlight bodies as well. I wanted to highlight around diversity and bringing race into the conversation as well, which often doesn't come into the conversation, especially on in certain spaces. So it's very important that we're able to bring that into the space as well for the change that's going on in the world right now. So thank you for sharing that. It's very important that we are aware of what's going on for us right now. So now let's dive back in time. So let's talk about phenomenology. So when we talk about non-verbal and non-verbal communication, something that is going on, we have to look at a phenomena. Okay, so we're going to rewind here to Edmund Husserl, and this was going back really to his publications were early 1900s, and he put this forward as a new approach to philosophical problems. So, and what this means very simply, and I do have this book, right, that is cost me a fortune. Look how thick this book is. It's the most boring book I've ever read. And if you were here and were interested, I would actually give you this book, right? So I'll boil this book down, right? I'll use it for something else, put the laptop on it. What does phenomenology mean? Okay, so what it means is this. When something happens, so this is the one in therapy you'd usually get. I can't do it on Zoom. It's the tapping foot, right? Or it's this. It's the thing that is happening in the moment, okay? It's non-verbal. What are you noticing, right? Okay, so, and then we put a bracket around that in this time right now, and then we bring it into consciousness. So, you know, if someone may be talking about, oh, there's this woman at work or something's going on at work, and we may say, so I'm noticing that you're holding your neck. What's going on there? And usually it's the fact that the woman at work is a pain in the neck. There's something going on, okay? So what may we notice? And I'd like you through this to reflect on your clients who may be coming to you about how they may move. So it may be pace. It may be eye contact. I have a client who runs up the stairs. She's nearly in the room before me, okay? So whereas a more depressed client is lower. But what is the thing we are noticing? And bracket it. So we're talking about consciousness here. Awake consciousness, okay? And when we have consciousness, we then have unconsciousness, the unconscious, the shadow. So with phenomenology, let's talk about the self. So the self is the mental individuation from which all mental acts issue, and it is presented to us indirectly. So the self is presented to us indirectly. So noticing the phenomena, noticing the yawn, Mia. Yeah. So what's the yawn? Yeah. So what's being presented? Are we tired? What's going on? What do I need right now? And by deeply and profoundly inquiring to the witness of all knowledge, and this is you, right? As a therapist, as a healer, as a yoga teacher, you are noticing this. You wouldn't be on this course today if you didn't notice this. So I know you have a non-verbal felt sense of your own noticing of people, okay? So by you deeply and profoundly inquiring into the witness of this knowledge, this specific philosophical inquiry opens up into contemplative awareness, okay? So this gentleman, Maurice Merleau-Ponty, was a student of Edmund, and very much he was very passionate about writing. Everyone had to write papers, and again, I'm flagging, there's mostly only men at this point. So we do not have bodies, rather we are our body. We are in this world through our body, even our dreams, okay? Think of Freud, dreams. Think of your own dreams, client dreams, bodies in the dream. Insofar as we perceive the world with our body, okay? And the flesh is at the heart of the world. Know your own knowing about this. Non-verbal. So it's hard, isn't it? We're doing something about non-verbal phenomena, and it's that felt sense. So it's exploring that. So just notice which clients may be coming to you. If you've got certain students or an energy in the room, if you're teaching, what might you notice there? So Daniel Stern, who's a lovely bloke, and he started, let me just find his book here, this one. So when I was training, and I was a yoga teacher before I was a psychotherapist, the body, I thought everyone would be talking about this in the training. Nope, nothing. I had to train to be clinical. I understand that. But then I started finding odd books of Daniel Stern, and later Bessel van der Kolk, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Bessel van der Kolk was a moment of like, oh, other people are into this stuff as well. So Daniel Stern, he was very controversial at the time. So again, look, now we've got 30, 40 people on courses now. Great. To talk about mind and body is extremely controversial. It was then, and I will hold that it still is now. So depending on the spaces we're in. So yeah, I'm going to revisit how controversial this can be. So Daniel Stern really forced that we look at psychotherapy differently through a magnifying glass of the present moment. So coming back to the phenomena happening in the present moment and really bringing that into awareness with our clients, with our work, and actually even in a group setting, being able to have that influence the work that we're doing with the energy in the room. And that's more for yoga teachers. So in short, until recently, mainstream academic psychology had no pressing need to pay attention to the nature and structure of the present moment. And it is only psychology and psychotherapy's new alliance with the neuroscience that has changed that to a more fruitful movement that is taking place. This now is today that fruitful movement. It's been, and it's getting bigger and bigger, thank goodness. But he was really criticised for his work and seen as quite controversial. He's a beautiful book here called The Present Moment in Psychotherapy in Everyday Life. And it's really simple, lots of practical things to do. I love this book, so it's really great. So now let me jump forward and bring in some other figures from science. Again, I'm going to bring in Freud, Mr. Freud here. So Freud himself had his own body theory, and he spoke about an existence of an energy in the body, which he described as an electrical charge spread all over the surface of the body. And what I'd like to give you a phrase here, that energy is movement. Okay, and then think about your clients, think about your classes, think about the energy, think about the lack of movement as well, and the lack of energy. Okay, so when someone is anxious, energy is higher. At the minute with COVID, there is a collective unconscious packed with anxiety. Now think about more of a depressive, lower energy. So then there's a lack of movement. So movement, energy is movement, movement is energy, but again, there is an up and a down of that. So Freud spoke that mind and body come to be experienced as conflicting forces. And actually, there was a point in Freud's work where he stopped talking about the body because he was in sort of Vienna back in the day when the great and the good. It became quite risky, and he stepped more away from his bodily theory. Yet in the beginning, and you'll know Freud is famous for massaging, nipping, looking at people's sexual energy, secretions, sweat, movements. However, he did choose to step away from it. So again, it's what are we bringing into conscious awareness? This is what Freud was initially doing. And I love this phrase. And again, think of two people in the room here, or even you'll even as a yoga teacher be aware of it in a group of people. So it is a very remarkable thing that the unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. I'm going to leave that with you. I love that. I love that. So again, there's two people in the room here. Two people in the room. Now, and I'm sending you loads of information on Freud and his writings later on. However, I would like to, so Freud's the famous one, and there's a gentleman called William Reich. Has anyone heard of William Reich? So Freud politically and professionally destroyed William Reich because they fell out. So Reich was his right-hand man, and Reich stayed with the energy. He put his attention on the respiratory system, on the breath, but they fell out. And Freud did seek to destroy Reich. That's why not many people know about William Reich. I love William Reich, okay? And Reich spoke about every muscular rigidity. So think about your clients' bodies. Think of the pace. Think of the arch of the spine, movements. Just who's coming to mind here? That every muscular rigidity contains the history and meaning of its origin. The spasm of the muscle is a somatic side of the process of repression. So the phenomena that you're noticing, that you're sensing, there is something is being repressed there. And what William Reich is most famous for is this term called character armor. So I'm going to, if we were in a group, I would hand this little man around. He's really good, this little weeping Buddha, especially with people with depression, just to hold. So for me, I connect with this on the top of the spine here, okay? So this character armor, and the character armor is the sum total of typical character armor, which an individual develops as a blocking against his or her emotional excitations, resulting in a rigidity of the body. Think of your client's body, rigidity of the body, a lack of emotional contact, and a deadness. So when I read this, my lights went on. I was like, oh, my clients talk about a deadness in their body, a numbness, a frozen, yeah, all the time. And I hadn't heard this connected before. So this connected me with the work of William Reich. And very interestingly, with William Reich, and I'll go back to him because I love him that much, he was kicked because of the war. He then went to the States. His books were burned by the Nazis. Freud completely destroyed him professionally. He then went to a place in the States where it hadn't rained. It's called, was it Oregon? Oregon in the States where it hadn't rained. And he said, right, he's going to be able to make it rain because he was working with breath, energy. He went a little bit, he was sort of had this box and he was capturing people's sex energy. So there was other stuff going on. And basically the FBI came and destroyed all his files, all of his work. Remember the controversy of mind and body? People can't understand this power here. And there's a political timeline here. And he died in prison. He was imprisoned and died in prison. And all of his work was locked away by the FBI, and only in the last few years has it come to light. Okay, some of his work. And interestingly, his son, I'm going to show you, I'm going to play a music video in the break for you, was friends with Kate Bush, and Kate Bush made a song called Cloud Busting about William Reich's work. I'll share that with you in the break. Okay, so what we've looked at here is a phenomena, something happening. Think of your clients, think of the holding, think of what you're noticing in their bodies. You may even be picking some of it up in your body, but what are you seeing on them? And I love this picture. This is from a place, the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. There's lots of people from Yorkshire on this call. I don't know if you've been to this place. I love it. It's my favorite place. And look at that, the holding of the body there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just go into small breakout rooms. And what I'd like you to bring here is maybe just a client or what you were seeing. Again, keep confidentiality.